All right, ready to dive in? Today we're tackling Stonehenge. I mean, everyone knows it, right? That iconic stone circle over in England. But here's the thing.
It wasn't just built all at once.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking centuries here. A project that unfolded over like 1,000 years.
Over 1,000 years, that's right.
And we've got some incredible research here breaking down the latest findings, interpretations.
It's amazing the things we're learning really changes how you think about the whole thing.
It really does, yeah. So no, just like poof, giant stone circle appears overnight. Right?
Nope, not even close. What most people picture, that outer ring of those massive sarsens, the trilithons inside, that horseshoe shape.
Right, the classic Stonehenge look.
That wasn't even there until stage 2. Before that, it was something else entirely.
Okay, so like rewind back to 3000 BC. What's going on at Stonehenge then? What does it even look like?
Imagine this. A huge circular ditch and bank.
Okay, how huge are we talking?
About 100 meters across, so pretty big. And inside that, the biggest cremation cemetery in Britain from that era.
Wow, a cemetery, not a stone circle.
Yeah, and not just random burials either. The entrance was aligned with the moon.
The moon.
Yeah, the northernmost rising point. Really striking when there's a full moon in midwinter.
So they were already thinking about the cosmos, even before those big stones. That's cool. But this research mentions these Aubrey holes. What were those all about?
The Aubrey holes. For a long time, they were a total mystery. 56 pits, just inside that ditch.
56. That's a specific number. Must mean something.
Well, recent digs found something really interesting. Evidence that these holes once held bluestones.
Wait, like those smaller stones but still massive? That came all the way from Wales.
Exactly. The Presley Hills in Wales. Over 150 miles. Imagine moving those.
Yeah, crazy. So they must have been really important.
It shows you just how important they were, yeah. And they didn't just dump them in. These were arranged carefully.
So not just building materials, something more like ritual objects or something.
Exactly. Real meaning there.
Yeah.
And this is all before the Sarsens show up, remember?
Wow. It's layers upon layers. So much more complex than just a circle of stones. This research also mentions some other stuff found from stage 1, things buried with those cremated remains.
Yeah. There was a stone mace head, and we think maybe a ceramic incense burner. Things often linked to, like, authority, rituals.
So hints about their social structure, how they organize themselves.
Right. Each artifact adds a little bit more to the picture.
It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle, slowly coming together.
Exactly.
But this is where it gets really interesting for me. If those bluestones were so important in stage 1, why move them to make this new layout in stage 2? Just recycling? Or did the meaning change?
That's a great question, and archaeologists are still debating it. Some think maybe they thought the bluestones could heal people.
Like magical healing powers?
Could be. Or maybe they were linked to their ancestors, their original homeland. Moving them could mean their beliefs about those stones were changing over time.
Right, because this is hundreds of years between stages.
Exactly. Plenty of time for things to shift.
And then, boom, the Sarsens arrive. Talk about making a statement.
Oh, absolutely. Around 2600 BC, Stonehenge changes forever. These giant sarsens, some weighing 20 tons, hauled from 20 miles away.
That's mind-boggling.
It's incredible. They arranged them into that outer circle, then inside that horseshoe of trilithons, 2 uprights with one across the top.
So much work, so much planning.
It's mind-blowing. The effort, the coordination, the ingenuity.
Yeah.
Makes our modern stuff look puny.
Seriously. But here's where things get really intriguing. This stage 2 layout, it kind of mirrors what they found at Durrington Walls, right? That nearby site.
Durrington Walls is key to understanding Stonehenge, yeah. It was this busy settlement right around the same time as stage 2 at Stonehenge.
Like a village, people living there full time.
Yeah, a huge village, bustling, houses, feasts, everyday stuff, you name it. And guess what?
Blah.
Timber circles.
Like made of wood.
Yep, but arranged just like those sarsen stones at Stonehenge.
So you've got Stonehenge with all those dead, and Durrington Walls full of life. Same time, same design. Too much of a coincidence, right?
You'd think so. So maybe they were 2 halves of the same thing. Durrington Walls for the living, Stonehenge for the dead. One big, connected ritual landscape.
That's a really cool idea. Really makes you think about the people who lived there, what they believed.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. But if those bluestones were so huge in stage 1, why are they kind of pushed aside when those giant sarsens show up? Just went out of style.
Well, not so fast. The blue stones, they weren't done yet. You know, those blue stones, they weren't just forgotten. They actually become even more important in stage 3. Around 2480 BC, They added this thing, the avenue.
Oh, yeah, the avenue, that path leading from Stonehenge to the River Avon, right? It's like they planned the whole landscape.
Exactly. Over 2.5 kilometers long, a direct link.
Mm.
But here's the kicker. At the river, they found another blue stone circle. Blue Stonehenge?
Wait, hold up. There were two no bluestone circles. So those stones came from Wales, went to Stonehenge, then got moved again to the river. Why so much fuss over these bluestones?
That's the big mystery. We're not totally sure. But they did dismantle Blue Stonehenge during this time, and we think they moved at least some of those stones back to Stonehenge. Like, they couldn't make up their minds about them.
It's like those bluestones were at the heart of their rituals, their beliefs. They kept fiddling with them, trying to figure out where they fit. Any ideas about what they meant to these people?
Well, some think those blue stones, they had healing powers. Maybe people came there for rituals, trying to get better.
Like some ancient spa day.
Maybe. Or another idea is they were a link to the ancestors, a piece of home for people who may have migrated from those Preseli Hills. Carrying a bit of their homeland all that way, that's pretty powerful.
Wow, yeah. Stonehenge as a place of remembrance, connecting not just the living and dead, but also the past and present.
Exactly. And stage 3 also gives us a peek into, well, the people themselves, not just the stones.
You're talking about the Stonehenge urcher, right? That skeleton they found buried near the avenue. A reminder that these weren't just like abstract monuments. Real people lived and died there.
Yeah, the Stonehenge archer. He was shot with arrows multiple times.
Ouch. That's rough.
This was around 2400 BC. We don't know if it was a sacrifice, a murder, or just, the way they buried people back then. But it shows you life and death were intertwined at Stonehenge.
Powerful stuff. Makes those stones feel a lot more real. But back to those blue stones that keep getting moved around. What happens to them in stage 4?
Stonehenge never stays the same. Around 2270 BC, stage 4, those blue stones, they're shuffled again. This time, they make 2 new arrangements inside the Sarsen Circle.
Okay, so we've got the outer Sarsen Circle, the avenue to the river, and now the blue stones are back at the main site, but in new spots. What do they come up with this time?
First, they make a blue stone circle. Sits mostly on top of those earlier holes, the Q&R holes. Then inside that circle, they make a blue stone oval, like they were constantly tweaking the design, experimenting.
Like one giant art project. But you mentioned earlier that each stage might reflect changing beliefs and rituals. Anything happening around this time that could explain these new arrangements?
Well, remember, it wasn't just about looks. These changes probably reflected shifts in their beliefs, how they did rituals, even their social structure. Hundreds of years, that's a long time. New ideas about the cosmos, the ancestors, who knows? Maybe each change reflects those new ideas.
Makes you wonder what sparked those changes, doesn't it? Were they reacting to stuff happening in the world, or was it something within their own society? So fascinating to think about. But then, as you said, everything just kind of stops. What happens in this last stage?
Stage 5, this is the most mysterious one. Around 1630 BC, this is when we get the Y and Z holes.
Those are the ones dug outside the Sarsen Circle, right? But they never put any stones in them, did they?
That's right. So what were they for? Some think they were meant for blue stones, but they never got moved. Maybe because beliefs changed or they ran out of resources. Others think those holes were meant for something else, entirely wood posts maybe, or who knows what. Like they were getting ready for another big change, then just stopped.
It's a total cliffhanger after over 1,000 years of work. Any clues why they would just stop like that?
Well, this last stage lines up with a big shift in the wider world, the Middle Bronze Age, around 1600 BC. You see fewer big monuments like Stonehenge being built, and more focus on land boundaries, fields, practical stuff. Maybe their focus shifted from the ancestors to, everyday life.
So, did they just abandon Stonehenge? Or did it still mean something, even if they weren't building anymore?
That's a great question. And it leads us to some pretty compelling evidence that Stonehenge wasn't just forgotten.
It's kind of wild to think that even when they stopped all that massive construction, Stonehenge still mattered to the people living there. What kind of evidence is there that they were still hanging out there?
Well, diggers, archaeologists, they found pottery, Bronze Age and the Iron Age, right there at Stonehenge.
So people were still coming and going long after the last stone was put in place.
Seems like it. It wasn't just abandoned. Maybe its role changed, they thought about it differently, but it was still important to them for centuries.
It's like its story kept going, changing with the times, with what people believed. After going through all these stages, all that construction, all those changes later on, it makes me think about the big mysteries that are still out there. Why were those blue stones so important that they kept moving them all around? What did they actually do in those circles? And what made them finally stop building?
Those are the big questions, the ones that really get researchers going. And we may never know for sure, but that's part of what makes Stonehenge so captivating. It's like a puzzle, but some of the pieces are missing. We got those astronomical alignments, the stuff they buried, those feats at Durrington walls, how they went from stone tools to using copper. If we put it all together, maybe we can start to understand how the people who built Stonehenge saw the world.
Like trying to solve a mystery with only half the clues, but it's still amazing. It shows you how much humans need to connect to something bigger than themselves, right? Whether it's the stairs, their ancestors, or just the mysteries of time.
Yeah, totally. And looking at everything, it seems like Stonehenge wasn't just a cemetery or a place to look at the stars. This was probably a place where they blurred the lines between the living and the dead, celebrated life, honored their ancestors, connected with nature. That's something we still feel today, that need for something beyond the everyday.
So, what does it all mean? I think Stonehenge makes us look deeper, not just at the history, but at our own questions about the past, the present, what it means to be human. What about you? What really sticks out to you? What mysteries are you thinking about?
For me, it's how powerful this place still is. Thousands of years later, people from all over the world still come to Stonehenge. It makes us curious. It sparks our imaginations, reminds us that we always want to understand our place in the universe. Stonehenge shows us what humans can do, our ingenuity, our drive, and that we're always searching for meaning.
I love that. It shows that those stones may be silent, but their story keeps going. They're inviting us to explore those mysteries of the past and connect with this incredible place. So keep exploring, keep those theories coming, and let's keep uncovering the secrets of Stonehenge.